Hey everybody, Whitney Wonka here, and today we're jumping back into the Willy Wonka master bedroom. Today it's going to be all about a gum-chewing little girl. And an inventing room. It's pretty good. That's a big piece of gum. Oh crap. So let's discuss that inventing room. Now in the book and both movies, Wonka describes this room as the most important room in the entire factory. The book describes it as looking like a witch's kitchen. Now don't get excited, Tiny Whitney, we aren't making this look like a witch's kitchen. Even though I kind of want to, but we're not doing it. Now in the original movie, the room looks kind of like a big industrial mess, if I have to be honest. The set designer, Harper Goff, had created a much sleeker assembly line type of design, but Mel Stewart, the director, was not a fan, and so Harper had to go back to the drawing board, and then he redesigned the room based more on Wonka's character, so it has a much more unusual and eccentric feel to it, which is why it also looks like a big junkyard, which is also where they located much of the items they used in the movie. Now the Tim Burton Wonka also strays from the witch's kitchen, and it gives us this very almost galactic inspired room, but both are magical either way. For my Wonka room, the inventing room is going to be represented on the wall, and it's going to be directly across from the chocolate room wall that I created in the last video. Since it's much easier to build the wall outside the room, I've cut and shaped this piece of poster board, and I will glue this to the interior once I have everything in place. Now if you look at the background of the room, it's very metallic with some blues and greens kind of peeking through, and it looks like the set was built inside of a garage area, and that's pretty much because it was inside of an industrial building. Now, I love all those pastel colors used in the room, and so I'm going to be using a combination of some striped boba straws and some color flexi straws. And I have these little springs too that kind of look cool that I might use, and several tiny fun shaped little bottles and beakers and adorable test tubes sent to me by a tiny friend, and I want to make sure to incorporate those as well. So I've painted my base coat in these metallic acrylic paints, and I've left the window area completely blank. Now that window area will represent another child in another episode, and so today I'm just gonna leave it alone. Now a piece that always stands out in the room to me is that big copper funnel. So I'm gonna create one from some cardstock, a boba straw, and some paint, and boom, big funnel, and just like magic, I've added all my straws. I mean, my candy making pipes. Oh, and then I forgot about this package of gears that was given to me by my sister, and I'm totally down to paint these metallic and add them too. And oh yeah, that feels good. So several shots of chemistry sets are seen in the inventing room, and so it seems fitting that I need to add that element to this inventing wall. So I'm going to add some fun colored UV resin to these bottles, and then I'll paint the outside of the ones that I can't fill to make them look like they have something cool in them. And then I'm going to glue them all in place, making a few look like they're maybe spilled over and being used as part of the candy making process. I also want to add a little steam. The entire room is very steamy. Hey now. But for me, I just need to add a little bit of steam, and so I'm just going to pull off a little tiny piece of cotton, and I'm going to make it very, very thin. And then I'm going to glue it into my big copper funnel. So as a miniaturist, you do tend to hoard trash as potential miniatures. And so I have several of these little bubble packages. I need a small one because I want to make that little plastic gum dispenser that Violet takes the gum out of. This little guy seems like the right size, and so I'm going to glue it down. I want to cut out a little slice of the plastic, and then I'm going to add the teeniest, tiniest piece of candy that I've ever seen. And boom, we're done. Oh, our girl Violet Beauregard. Sounds fancy. Played by the late Denise Nickerson, was already quite an accomplished little actress by the time she won the role in Wonka. Besides her ability, it was her cheeks that really stood out to the director, as they looked like perfect little blueberries. Her character in the book and in both the movie is pretty spot on. Competitive to a fault, loud and lacking tact, and very disrespectful and rude to her parents and other adults. The parents are also similar in how they respond to her without correcting correction or discipline, which of course is the lesson here. It is that life circumstances have a way of disciplining you. For the room, I wanted to create a comfy sitting area, an area to watch TV in, and maybe even have a meal if you wanted. So I found a really great Etsy store that sells these great STL files for printing on a 3D printer. So I thought it was time to stop being afraid of the 3D printer that I have and finally use it.
Be confident. Be confident.
Sorry, wrong movie. I now have these amazing printed chairs that look to me like giant blueberries. And of course, I had to print this everlasting gobstopper. The gobstopper I found on Thingiverse. Now with this lid to a body spray can that I had and some random oval pieces of dirty plastic, I'm going to make this into a little table. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The next step, of course, is to paint them. And since she's wearing a brilliant blue, it already seemed fitting to paint these chairs to look like Violet's outfit. I'll paint the legs in green to simulate like leaves or vines or something. And then the cushion I'll paint red, and then I'm going to trim it out in gold, just like her belt and her buttons. And of course I have to paint the everlasting gobstopper. Now that everlasting gobstopper and Slugsworth, shockingly, they really don't pertain to the plot of the book at all. In fact, they're just merely discussed in like one paragraph of the entire book. But obviously, we all know that the everlasting gobstopper is the ultimate test of character for the original movie as well as in the Tim Burton film. I must include this candy, of course, into the room, but I do want it to feel somewhat mysterious, the way that it does in the film. So I'm putting it inside this spray bottle cap and gluing the top down so it cannot be stolen. And just like in the movie, I want it to kind of hide under material. I'm using the same fabric that I used on the bed for, dare I say, a little continuity in this wild and wonky room. See what I did there? Wonky? Okay, well, moving on. Okay, so let's talk food. Or gum. Well, I mean food, but we all know that Violet can't pass up on a piece of gum. Now, this special gum, of course, is more than just any piece of gum. I mean, it was invented to help people who are starving stay full. And so, of course, it's going to be a full meal. Now, it all starts off with
Tomato soup.
And then it moves on to
Roast beef and a baked potato.
And then we all know it ends with
Blueberry pie and cream.
But since this is a master bedroom, I've decided to turn her gum flavors into a meal to be enjoyed in the room. I mean, I know I've enjoyed a meal or two in my own bedroom, breakfast mainly, but this is no ordinary dollhouse, and this is no ordinary room. First, to begin with the tomato soup. It's simply UV resin colored with chalk, cured, and then I added some baked polymer clay basil leaves. For the roast beef, I rolled some cream-colored polymer clay, added a brown polymer clay to the outside, slightly rolled it, then I trimmed down the outer crust, and then I baked it, and then dusted it with pink chalk and painted it dark red with acrylic paint, and added a little bit of diamond glaze, just to give it a juicy look and a little bit of texture. The baked potato, well, I already had that in my stash, so I just added that. Now, for the pie, I would have liked to have had a lattice crust. But since I'm just making one slice, I went with a full crust. I made a double-side polymer clay crust and dusted it with a little chalk. I made the blueberries by combining these two colors and then rolling out about 25 tiny little blueberry circles. With the rest of the clay, I chopped it down and added clear with liquid polymer clay and a little bit of blue chalk to make a really nice pie filling consistency. I filled in my pie and I folded the crust over. Then I added some of my little blueberries to the outside so they could be seen. I did make a small braid by twisting some of my cream colored polymer clay. I did this so I could have more of a decorative crust, and I glued that down later. Using white polymer clay and mixing it with liquid polymer clay, I did a little scoop of ice cream for the side and then baked it. Now we have a yummy dinner. I just need some silverware and maybe a drink. Tell me in the comments what kind of drink that you would have in this room. My brain went directly to chocolate milk, but tell me what your other creative ideas are. Maybe like a blueberry juice drink? I mean, she's taken to the juicing room. Poor Violet. Or should I say poor Denise Nickerson? I mean, it is well documented that she had a crush on the actor that played Charlie. I mean, talk about being set up for failure. First, she had to pick her nose in front of him, and then she had to be turned into a blueberry. And being a blueberry was no easy task. Once they got her into that costume, it was too difficult for them to get her out between takes, so she had to be fed while she was in that outfit. And I can't even think about what happened when she had to use the bathroom. Poor thing never stood a chance. Plus, days later, her skin began to turn blue again because the paint started seeping out of her pores in school. Basically, Violet was turning violet again days later. Now I've painted the trim, now it's time to install my inventing room wall and my violet furniture. Okay, so I love the chair color pop against the inventing room wall, the same way her outfit popped against the room, and it really made her stand out. And I don't know if this is the exact area where these chairs are going to be for good, but I'll need to wait till the end after all the other elements are in the room so I can figure out exactly where the best staging will be for these chairs. But for now, here they are. So of course, we still have 3 more kids to go, and I have way more fun things coming your way. Oh good, Tiny Whitney is here for a quick inspection and maybe a quick bite. But be careful of that gum, Tiny Whitney. I can tell you from experience, it doesn't end well. All right, everybody, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and comment. I love you all, and I'll see you next time.